Hello, my name is Andreas Andersson. I'm gonna tie a little favorite fly of mine here, a little deer hair mouse. And this is used for, I use a lot for trout, hopefully big ones. People use bigger versions for pike as well. The Americans use them a lot for bass, and I've even done some really big ones for taimen. It's a huge kind of trout in Mongolia. Very cool. I think it's fun, and I hope you're gonna like it. We're gonna tie one now in white and brown. So the white's gonna be on the belly. If you have a close look at this one here, you're gonna see it's a white belly. Most rodents have a lighter color on the belly, so we're gonna mimic that. And this has a gray hair, and on the fly we're gonna do a brown top, like a little forest mouse. I'm gonna use a partridge hook. It's a Predator X. It's a very strong hook, but it's smaller size. Still quite a heavy wire hook, and that's good because we're gonna do this with deer hair, and you want a hook that's stable for tying deer hair flies. So Predator X, 2/0. And thread I'm going to be using for this is a very strong thread. This is a gel spun thread. You can use a 150 denier or 200 denier thread. I prefer as strong as I can get for these ones, because I'm going to put a lot of pressure on the hair to really cinch it down, keep it in place. So you need a strong thread. First off, because this thread is kind of slippy, I'm gonna just put a tiny amount of super glue to help the thread stay in place. And I'm gonna take the thread to the start of the bend of the hook there. And here we're gonna put in a little tail. And for tail I use rabbit strip or sonker strip. This is really long, but I'm not gonna use it all, of course. Just strip a part of the end of the strip here, clean from hair, so you can tie it in real good. I'm also gonna do a little triangle here because it's not as bulky back here. If you make a little cut to the rabbit strip, just tie it in there. And I tried to make the rabbit strip cover the top of the hook shank like this. First off, to me it looks better, but I get a feeling it stays in place better. I never lost the tail on these ones. And now I'm just gonna use my scissor here, just slip it in behind some of the hairs and just use the scissor to cut it away. To me it's easier than trying to cut like a regular scissor. You can do the tail as long as you want or as short as you want, but I prefer to do them about the length of the total fly. So the total fly is going to be a little bit longer than the hook shank, because there's going to be hair coming out from the back here. So I'm gonna strip off a little bit more of the rabbit strip. You don't have to be super tidy with this. There is actually hair on a mouse or a rat's tail, even though they look kind of naked. At least the big, gross rats. But I think that's gonna be perfect. But I'm gonna leave a little bit of hair on the back part of this, something like that. So we start off with the white. It's gonna be on the belly, and cut a good sized clump there. Just wiggle this to and the shorter hairs that we don't want will just pop out, and then come in with a comb and make sure to get the under fur out. And this is really important when doing stacking, as we call it, the technique that we're putting different colors on top of each other. If you let the small under fur hairs stay in here, it's got to be a lot harder when we get to trying to wrap the thread through the hair. I'm going to use a stacker. I got a really big one here, and I think it's perfect. You don't have to stack it if you don't want to, so you don't have to buy like a big expensive stacker. So what we're going to do now to get the hair to the bottom part of the hook is I'm going to place it on top here, lay a loose wrap, and then another loose wrap, and then use my thumb from this side at the same time as I'm pulling this slowly and gently. And you see the white hair gets to the bottom here. I'm going to keep my thumb there with some pressure, if you can see it, and then put some more pressure and the hair will splay out or rise, or you can come in with another wrap and just put your thumb there. And then just put a little drop of super glue there to make sure that the tension you put on the thread stays there, so the hair stays in place. You want to make a durable fly, because it takes some time to make, but I like them this way. I think it's worth it. Generous amount of brown. I want the brown sticking off the back quite a bit. You can cut the buttons even, and then just come in here with a loose wrap, place it on top, and then another loose wrap. And you see now we got the brown hair on top of the white. So what I'm going to do now to not make it spin around the hook, I want it to stay in place on top. Thumb and forefinger holding on to the brown hair, and then with a straight pull down. You see that hair is all flared. And this in front here, I can come in with my scissors and just trim it out. This don't have to be super tidy, because it's going to be kind of a bushy little rodent anyway, but you don't need you don't want a lot of extra hair there, because it won't look as nice. So make a little thread base here, come back with a thread just up next to the hair in the back, and then we're gonna take some more white. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the hair I use for this kind of fly, it's called belly hair. It's deer belly hair. So if you're looking for it in a shop, it's called deer belly hair. And if you got a chance, open the bags, have a look at it. What you're looking for is to get the longest possible hair, because you're gonna put the thread in the middle and then flare it by thread pressure. So with a longer hair you can make a bigger or a tighter little bug or rat. So longer and thick hair makes better flies. I'm gonna lay this on the side, slightly on top, a loose wrap, another loose wrap, and then I know if I do this you can see it better. I use the thread to just walk it to the underside right there, and use my fingers to keep it there. So now the white will be on the bottom only. Another wrap, some pressure. I'm going to take some brown again. And for the brown, we're keeping all the tips. For the back part of this fly, we want I want to keep the tips because it looks better with the soft, not cut hair for the very back part. So I kept it there. But for the rest of the ones with the white, I'm gonna cut the tips because it's easier to get the thread through when doing the next stage here. I'm gonna show you. Some brown. Make a straight cut. And before we put in the brown, I'm gonna take a drop of super glue. Just put it right in the middle of the white, and then put the brown on top of that. Come in with a thread, a loose wrap, wiggle the thread to get it through the white. If I would have left the tips here, it's gonna be on. It would have been on this side, but it would have been harder to get the thread through. And then thumb and forefinger on each side, pull down to raise the hair. And you can just cut away some of that. We don't need it. And what I do then is just wiggle again and lay down some thread into the cut tips here, just to secure it. And then some more thread base to put hair on. Back to white. Cut the tips again. And repeat the same procedure. A couple of loose wraps on the side. And walk it to the underside. And I use my thumb and forefinger to keep it on the bottom, and then a securing wrap. Brown again. I'm actually going to be doing this a lot now. The same moves I did for the last layer. Cutting the tips straight, putting down a drop of super glue, and then same again here, catching the brown. You wiggle the thread, you can get it through the white without catching any hair. Okay, trim some of that away. Creating some kind of fur ball here. Going back to the white. A very good tip if you tie a lot of deer hair is get a great vacuum cleaner. Otherwise you will be looking for a new girlfriend soon. It gets messy, but it's quite easy to take care of with a good vacuum cleaner. To build up the body of the mouse, this is what I've been doing is last couple of steps here will be repeated a couple of times more. White on the bottom, brown on top. Cutting away this, and make sure you get your super glue in there every now and then, or for every layer. I find it really makes a difference in the durability of the fly. So take your time. Make sure you do it right. Take your time. Make it durable. If you catch your dream fish on one of these, might be an even bigger fish, and you want a fly that's good for a large number of fish. You want to use clumps of hair there that's pretty big, because you want to get a lot of hair in there to make a fly that's tight. You want a lot of hair in a small space, because it will help it float like a cork and also help a lot with the durability. Quite a lot of hair in each clump, but not too much, because when you pull the thread, you can cut through the clump of the hair if it's too big and you pull too hard. You want to pull hard. If you pull too hard, it will break anyway, but it's a lot easier to break it if the clump is too big. So you have to practice a bit and go a little bit back and forth. Now we're getting a little bit closer to the head now. Let's tidy this up. What I'm going to do now is use my left thumb and forefinger to hold on to the back of the hook, and I'm going to use the other fingers just to push the hair back a bit. You can use a tool. It's called a packer. It's great. It's really, really good. I got a huge one that's made for making these types of flies. Mine looks like this. It's huge, and you just put it there and press the hair back. But since not everyone has it, and I want a lot of people to maybe try this fly out and catch a huge fish, you don't have to have all the tools, but it makes things easier. Tools are like toys. Okay. So now we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a bit of blending of the hair. So what we're looking for now is hair that's as straight as possible. I'm going to take a little clump there. Don't have to be huge, because I'm going to use both white and brown in this. And it's going to be for the face of the mouse. I like to blend the faces. That's like a calling card of all my rodent patterns, whether I'm doing a lemming or a big rat or a mouse. They always have a blend on the face. And just put the brown on top of the white. Just put it in your hand and just mix it around, trying to keep the tips of the hair all in one direction. This looks like a big mess now, but I'm gonna get some workable hair out of this. So what I'm gonna use now is a big stacker. This is gonna help me align the tips. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this mixed hair. That's both brown and white, and I'm gonna tie it in just like we did with the brown on top, but I'm gonna use this part as well, both the tips and the back part. So I take the tips part and measure it against the body hair here, and I want it a little bit shorter, just a little bit, because it looks good. And first a little drop of super glue. Loose wrap. Come in with thumb and forefinger and raise the hair. Push it back a bit. And you see we still have some bare hook shank here, so it's going to be one more stack on the bottom and one more on top. For this very last part, I'm going to use the vise upside down, because I can spin it around. It's not enough room, at least not for my big hands, or clumsy. Again, we take out the tips on the bottom white hair. What I'm gonna do now is something that I worked out, because I got pretty big hands and I have a problem of getting them in there. So I'm just gonna have this clump in my left hand and holding it up here, away from the hook eye, and make a loose wrap, another loose wrap, just as I would if the hair was down on the hook shank. And then I'm gonna take thumb and forefinger on my right hand and come in, pressing the hair back. At the same time I'm trying to get the thread down, and this way I can get the white hair in there. To me it's a lot easier than trying to force it in there. My hands just won't go there. And for this last clump you can cut out the tips, so you don't have to worry about keeping the tips aligned at all. And same with the white. Get the fluff out, the under-fur. A little less, that's perfect. And cut the tips. It's easier to blend with cut tips, but for the first part I want to keep the tips because it looks better. So just mix this the same way. Just doing this way, my fingers is at the same time as I'm lifting it and stacking it like a deck of cards. So now I put the hair in the stacker, this big one. If you don't have one that is big, that takes a large clump, you just take the clump of hair and just do it in your hand instead. I can try and do that instead, just to show you. Just tap it in your hand, let go slightly so they fall into place. And this is probably the trickiest part, but it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna use the same technique to get the last clump in here, holding it slightly above here, making a loose wrap, coming down around the hook eye. Have to work a little bit here, and another loose wrap, thumb and forefinger. And then I actually use my right hand, see, to get some tension on the thread. And then come in and make a few wraps the thread right at the hook eye. So here we got a little problem. It's kind of hard to get a whip finisher in here, just like this, because the hair will get in the way. So you got two options, or three maybe. Either you try and hold the hair back with your fingers, or you take a plastic bag and you cut like a little slit in it and run the thread in that and try and hold the hair back. What I do, I take, this is from I don't think you can see it very well, but it's a small piece of plastic with that I made a cut in and a hole in the middle. So I'm gonna put this on the thread and try and get it past the hook eye. Take some pressure. And if I give it a little careful twist, it's gonna stay in place there. So now I've got something to hold the hair back, like this. You see the hair is held back pretty nicely, and it's really a do-it-yourself thing. I believe this is from a Coca-Cola bottle, and my bigger one for bigger flies are like from the bottom of Piliar or something. Just anything. To me, this is very easy. So I can get in there and do my whip finish. And I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I get it in there nice and tight. I'm gonna try and get another one in there. That's done. Cut the thread, take this away. Now we're gonna take this little comb again and go through the whole fly, just getting out any loose hair that's got in there somewhere, some way, and also having the hair stand up, because we're gonna use a razor blade now to shape it into hopefully something that looks like a mouse. So I'm going to start with the bottom, and what I'm going to use to make sure I cut straight is the hook eye. See, the hook eye is flat, so I'm going to use that as a ruler for cutting this. So I angle the vise towards me because I can't do it sideways. It's just me. So I made a first few cuts here, trying to keep straight with the hook eye. Make sure to just a little at a time. Easy does it. You don't want to cut the thread because then you're gonna have to start all over again. Make sure to just be patient, a little at a time, and you're gonna do fine. You want to cut it quite close to the hook. I try to go as close as I can without cutting the thread. Be careful, do it a little at a time. If you notice any thread, usually if you take just a little at a time, you're gonna notice it by feeling the blades, just the blades slipping on it. If you do a big cut, you're gonna cut the thread, but if you do it a little at a time, you can usually get all the way down almost to the thread and not cut it. When I'm done, it's just 1 or 2 millimeters maybe. That's basically it. You want to make sure to get a good hook gap, and that's obviously something that's important when making the hook choice. If you use like a regular streamer hook that's got a small hook gap, you're gonna have very big problems hooking fish. I think this is perfect. I use Partridge Universal Predator X. So what I'm doing now I'm actually kind of happy with the bottom of the fly. I'm just trying to get some of the white out. You don't have to get it all out along the sides here, because I just think it looks better. And to do that, I'm using just one tip part of the double edge razor blade I'm using for the cutting. Just coming in and doing a little bit at a time here. But you want to keep the belly of these flies quite flat, because that way, when I take one of the ready ones with this flat belly, you get a better swim out of them, especially in moving water. The flat belly kind of surfs on top of the currents. You want a little bit of white right at the back there. And now we're gonna do the head part. I'm gonna turn it my way again. And again, I'm using the hook eye as a ruler. But I'm not gonna try and go close to the hook now. I'm gonna make an angling cut. Kind of like that angle. To make the shape of the head of the mouse. I'll start with a straight cut, and just to get something going here in the middle. And then now I'm happy with the angle there to create the head of the mouse. Then I'm gonna do the sides one by one, making, as with the bottom part, small cuts. I'd rather make lots of small cuts than big ones. Big ones might be faster if you get them right every time, but if you cut too much, it's very hard to get it back there. So be careful, take your time. As I said before, I believe it's a kind of time-consuming mouse pattern to do. So you don't want to do it all again by being greedy and cutting too much. So just make sure to take your time, and you're hopefully gonna get a good-looking mouse pattern. If you don't want to, obviously you don't have to have the white belly and do all that. You can just use, if you got one color, use that color. I tie a lot of mouse patterns for other fishermen, basically all over the world, and their mice or lemmings or whatever that we want to try and mimic looks different. So you can just use this as a basic pattern, and just change the size and change the colors. Almost done with the head. I think that will be okay. We're gonna give this little guy some ears and eyes, and do a little cleaning up here at the hook guy so you can get the tip it in. So what I use for making ears for these little mouse patterns is the thin foam. It's called fly foam. What you want to do is cut straight, but move the foam around. Because if you got it's a lot easier with a bent scissor. But I don't have one here right now, so I'm gonna do it with a straight one. And this will obviously just cut straight cuts. But if you move the foam around, it's a lot easier to get a rounded kind of cut. I can do a little fine trimming on. All good. I'm gonna start with this side. I'm gonna use a little needle here and just separate the hair just behind the head. I'm gonna put a small amount of super glue onto the ear so it sticks there, and then just put the ear in there, and then I'm gonna take my finger and get into the deer hair, and from the other side here just a light press, so make sure the glue on the side on the sides of the foam grips onto the deer hair. We're gonna do the other side. I'm just gonna you can use the needle as a ruler to get a little measurement, so you put the ears in at the same place but on the other side of the fly. Again, some super glue. You can use a gel type if you want. It's usually perfect for deer hair flies, but for the ears I for some reason almost always use the regular type of super glue. That's going nowhere. Now you can just have a look and see if you want to trim something more off the face before you put in the eyes. So what we're gonna do now is give him some eyes. Of course, he needs eyes. And for eyes on the hair, I always use either a gel type super glue or epoxy. The regular types of super glue, like the brushable that I use a lot for other stages of the fly, will just soak into the deer hair and kind of almost disappear. Might be the wrong word, but it won't make them stick and stay there after a couple of fish as a gel type or epoxy will. There's too much glue coming out of this tube. That's going to be perfect. Put some pressure on that, make sure it sticks there. Okay, perfect. So almost finished this one. I'm gonna use a little tool that's almost like sheeting for cleaning up the eye. It's a little burn tool thing. You can use the razor blade or a very fine little scissor to do this and get in really close to the hook eye. This is a little bit faster, but if you use the scissor you're gonna get a similar result. It just takes a little more time, but it works perfectly fine. Almost done. I'm gonna do a last little step to secure this fly or make it a little bit more durable. It's on the belly of the fly. I'm gonna take some UV resin, big drop here. Just use the brush to get it onto the belly, and then this sets in seconds under a UV light. It becomes hard real fast. So it's a faster alternative to epoxy, I guess. Epoxy is a little bit more durable, so if you're making a ton of flies you might want to use epoxy if you want, but I find this so super convenient, these new UV resins, so I use it all the time, almost. Put it on there, go away, have a cup of coffee, and then come back and hit it with a light. If you change your mind or you just maybe want to change a little bit, you can do it, and then you just put a light when you're happy with the result. Here we go. We have a deer hair mouse. Looks kind of cool. Swims really well. Can surf on top of a current thanks to the flat belly, and as the hairs are hollow, the deer hair will float like a cork. Obviously it can get some water on the top hair and soak up if you don't treat it with some kind of fly floatant. I use a gel type fly floatant a lot, and just put it on my fingers and just do this to get the floatant into the fly, to make it float longer and keep an even keel. I think it works really good. Or if you have like a spray version, just use that. But some floatant is good because then it won't soak up as much water and won't be as heavy to cast. It's kind of hard to sink them all together, but it's good if they shed water better on the back cast. But then you don't have to use the pike rod for this. You can use a regular trout rod, because trout will eat this easily. You should have a look at the Kanal Gratis movie Big Mountain Brownies, where Niklas Bauer is fishing my mouse patterns or lemmings for some really nice big Swedish brown trout up in the northern part of Sweden. And also remember that you can win this fly and try it out for yourself, or just put it on the cheese in the fridge and scare the wife if you want. Just give us a good reason why you should win it in the comment box below. And if you're interested in seeing more of my flies, check out my Instagram account at Andreas13 Andersson. Andreas13 Andersson. Some more flies there. Hopefully you think it's cool. Thank you.